Alors, il y a un monde.
Shota Yasuka, oui, excuse-moi, bien vu, j'ai tout à fait.
Yasuka, ouais.
Shota Yasuka.
Il y a un monde où on a notre fameux match qui va en 3 games 70 minutes. Hein.
And a windswept heave that will probably play a dork. Fetching a Bayou.
Ça peut suffire largement pour aller en 70 minutes.
Et de gens qui jouent pas spécialement le plus vite du monde, mais qui jouent quand même à un rythme délibéré, hein, soyons clairs.
Oui, bien sûr. Non, mais voilà. Enfin, moi, j'aime beaucoup regarder Loïc.
It's an elvish mystic, okay. So we have a look at Ertai's hand. There is a miscalculation, there is a Parallax, Tide, River of Tears into Orcish Bowmaster dealing with the Dork. It's a fine turn too.
Directement, et ça permet effectivement de rester super bien sur le tempo de la part d'Alexandre qui est sur le play et qui se fera pas mettre derrière au tempo par ce Lian Warells.
Non, puis surtout, t'es là en mode tu prends pas Slimefoot T2 quoi. Et là, il fait Elvis Gift Spirit, blab.
Je sais pas si tu ferais ça, à mon avis.
Quand ça passe
dans la situation, quand ça passe. Mais ça
There's a Sunken Hollow also.
S'il n'y a pas contre-up en face, si t'arrives à mettre Slimefoot en jeu, avec l'area du cimetière, les saprobiontes et tout, c'est vite chiant. D'ailleurs, il y a quelque chose qu'on a oublié de faire, c'est de prendre les listes.
Yeah, so with that hand, with that setup, Alex can actually try to deny all the different threats that Slimefoot is coming up with, and if he manages to keep the board clean, then he can just cast the Parallax Tide on turn 4 and exiling all the lands, maybe leaving the Slimefoot player with no more lands, and maybe one creature on the battlefield, maybe even 2. We will see. But there is a potential for the blowout already.
Le Nord n'est pas tapé à 90 déjà. Ouais, c'est même un peu plus, il est à 93 degrés, je dirais à peu près.
La vraie soirée commence. Bah, c'est vrai que là, c'est un peu la finale du jour. Hein.
Oui, ça se tient. Oui et non, parce qu'il y a des joueurs qui ont peut-être un petit peu plus de win dans leur journée.
There's a Pact of Negation. Interesting. There might be some combo featured. And we have a Sunken Hollow, a land type we don't see too often these days anymore. Aren't they called battle lands? Wasn't it that? I'm not too sure, to be honest. Back then, I think originally released with Zendika, if I'm not mistaken, was quite a thing. People were pretty hyped. Yeah. It was Battle for Zendika, actually. I think they were called Battlelands. So we see a fetch for a Badlands, and this will probably result in a Slimefoot cast.
Non, puis t'es là en mode, bah en fait j'ai fait 10-0, je viens. Ouais, en gros, tu fais triple loose demain, tu peux quand même passer le top. Hein.
Pour la suite du match, du coup, qu'est-ce qui s'est passé? Il y a eu des elfes qui sont morts pendant qu'on gardait les decks.
There's a Grief, pitching, Recurring Nightmare. Okay. I'm not sure. I mean, you have to develop some board before you make use of the Recurring Nightmare, but might have been, might be a card that's quite good against control decks. Getting rid of a Stern Scolding. Interesting. Oh no, actually he countered the Grief with the Stern Scolding. That makes sense. And then there is a Fable of the Mirror Breaker as a follow-up. The second ability is not the best, considering the fact that there is an Orcish Bowmaster on field. Undercity Sewers. another tapped land, so there is no... We see a Lab Maniac. Oh, this must be a spicy variant, man.
Il y avait Tilt possible aussi, donc je voulais clarifier. Ouais. Alors, peut-être qu'on se trompe, mais il me semble que c'est Ertai. J'ai eu cru en
Guys, a Lab Maniac. That's such a long time ago that we saw this card. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So, that's what I expected when I saw the Pact of Negation. It's a counterspell that's usually played to protect a turn in which you go off with a combo. For those of you who forgot about what Pact of Negation does, now in a cool new frame. I think it's crazy expensive. If there's even a copy available on card market. Not quite sure about that. Yeah, you can pick up a copy on card market for 120 bucks. Could be worse. Might be cool. Might be worth for some people. What do we have here? A Grist cast with a treasure token and a Bayou on field, which means the miscalculation cannot take care of that. What is the fourth card? We have Pact, we have Parallax Tide, we have Miscalc, and there's a fourth card. That's a Lab Maniac, right? Yeah, that was a Lab Maniac. So just making sure there is no follow-up. Yeah, bit unfortunate. He drew a Profane Tudor. So it's probably the turn to bring down the Tide. Of course, you can also go for Ertai and get rid of Grist. Because of the Bowmasters on field, you would also ping a damage to maybe the Insect, have a blocker for the Shaman available, something like this. It's actually targeting the Insect with the Destroy? Is that the case? Seems a bit odd to me. Or maybe he's just pointing out that, well, I destroy this card and... yeah, right. That would make sense. So destroy the Planeswalker. And then there's a card draw, which gets rid of the Shaman. And now there is a Fable flip. It looked like he forgot about that for a second. But I think there was a rule change recently that you can forget Saga triggers. I think having the second, using the second chapter with an Orcish Bowmaster on field is not the best. Right? I mean, of course, he could have discarded one card and draw another one, but that would mean that the Bowmaster grows. Not the Bowmaster itself, but the army would grow. And you also have to have in mind that there is an Ertai waiting to do shenanigans, which also draws 0 cards, so even grows the army further. Here we see a birthing pot. The question is, what are you going to search? Are you going to put away the elf? Or are you going to put away your Kiki-Jiki? It seems he's going to search for a CMC4 target. Could be anything. Pyrogoyf, Initiative, Yawgmoth. Yawgmoth is interesting. At least taking care of the Bowmasters. And also, Yawgmoth has protection from humans, which means it cannot be destroyed by Ertai. The good old legendary 4-drop. Back then, Sheoldred was not invented. And people played this commander in an aristocratic way. I did so too, I really enjoyed it. It's quite some time ago. These days, it's mostly played in either Slimefoot or you see it in Prosh from time to time. I'm not sure if the Bowmaster, like the token, grows here. Because the creature dies first. Because the order is you put the 1/1 counter on target creature. No, because there's state-based actions are checked directly after, right? And then, so it happens, so the trigger still goes on stack here. Inquisition. Revealing the 3 cards. Now, having the Parallax Tide is no mystery anymore. And it's also not the craziest card. Probably the best play he has right now. There's a Tainted Pact. That card stays hidden. With 1 more mana, he could play the Lab Maniac. I mean, what he could do is... The problem here is he can play the Lab Maniac, okay. Then the opponent will ask the question why he did that. There is still a Yawgmoth on field. There is a Birthing Pot that's waiting to put something into something. So probably your Lab Maniac will not resolve. Will not stay on board. And then you telegraph to your opponent, like either it's a trap or you say, okay, have something to win the game next turn. Because then he could just Tainted Pact the whole library and draw a card with no cards. But it's also not the best play against a Yawgmoth. If there is a Slimefoot cast next turn, there would be a couple of more creatures on the battlefield. If we have a look at the Lab Maniac again, it's only a 2/2. So it will probably not live any longer. Which means the Wizard into Tainted Pack play is not an option here. But Alexandre is probably searching for a land or something to answer. I think there's nothing to answer the pot. I don't want to say nothing, but there might be some cards. But you also have to think about CMC2. DT could be a thing. Decides to skip that, searching for something else. Memory lapse, yeah. Parallax Nexus. Temple of the False God. He's 1 mana away from that. There is a Jace. Now that the Tainted Pact is gone, not too crazy. I would not expect him to play Demonic Consultation. Maybe there's something to reanimate. A Grist, for example. Trading the Bowmaster token for Yawgmoth. The deeper you dig, the worse it might get. So he decides to take the reanimate. Yeah, and he was just reanimating the Bowmasters, and since there are 3 damage on Yawgmoth due to blocking the token, he was dealing the final damage. Still, I think Alexandre is not in the best position here. Still looks difficult, to be honest. It could be a Slimefoot cast. That's the case. That seems to resolve. There's nothing to do here. I mean, he still knows the cards, right? Pact, Parallax Tide. Yeah, it could, for example, be a Pyrogoyf. I think there are many targets here. Undermountain Adventurer, if he features one, is maybe not the best, but we will see. A red card, it's a Pyrogoyf, okay. Pyrogoyf is probably dealing with the army token, or maybe just going face. I mean, you could just also go face with the damage. I don't know about the power toughness assignment, but I think there's an enchantment, instant, Planeswalker, So it should be quite a big Goyf.
Mieux, tu vois. Après, je pense que c'est deux choix qui sont juste des choix de jeu.
Let's see, instant sorcery, land,
Là, il doit se dire, ok,
planeswalker, creature, enchantment. Yeah, at least 5 power.
Bah, si tu butes le 4-4, le Bowmaster, tu gagnes quand même le board, je pense, parce que le Pyrogoyf il doit être immense. Hein. Il est au moins 4-5. Pour autre chose, c'est ça peu de Pyro, et je ramène Pyro avec Slimefoot.
I mean, this turn, he could shoot the 5-6 damage face. He decides to get rid of the big token instead, which is also fine. Now you might be wondering, oh, Slimefoot went to the graveyard. Yes, yes, but we have the Mutavault on field. This is a good land from Morningtide that has all creature types once activated. And now that I looked over to the second screen, was it Alexandre just conceding the game? Yeah. So Ertai is on the play. That means he conceded the last round. Maybe to save some time. Would take too long to get out of this situation. Not drawing lands, Parallax Tide not being too influential if you can't deny your opponent from getting back a Slimefoot. The thing with the lineup, having Temple into Parallax next turn, would have worked, but if your opponent developed that much board already with a Yawgmoth on field and other things, it doesn't really do anything. And as long as you have creatures on field, you don't deal with the creatures, and the birthing pot is sticking, and you keep developing more and more because you search for better creatures due to the birthing pot, it doesn't really do anything except for time walking. But not to your advantage in this case. There's a Tainted Pact in Slimefoot's hand. A Lazotep Query. On the other hand, I was... okay. We talked about Demonic Consultation. And... so I can give you 3 crazy artworks. I can give you the original one. Because no one wants to read the text on that card. We go over to a Secret Layer version. And that's another card that combos with Lab Maniac as well as Jace. Wielder of Mysteries. Grist is going to be dazed. There's a pathway. So, okay, we have a Demonic Consultation. So this pile seems to focus on more combo lines than usual. Back in the days, people were also experimenting with storm lines and Ertai. But yeah, I personally feel when you only have black available to create fast mana, it's not enough. You have to have red in order to have some more rituals available. So I currently also don't play the Tendrils combo in Sheoldred. I think it's too clunky. Many times you end up with 1 or 2 combo pieces that don't do anything. You don't get your storm count together, and then you lose the game. Instead, you would like to have some interaction or something that develops your board again. And yeah, that's why I also think the Jace, like Lapmaniac Jace winning lines are much better than going for a Storm approach. There were also variants that played Doomsday, I think, but when you want to play Doomsday, these days you have to run the Merfolk. That seems to be much better.
Je pense qu'Alexandre espérait piocher peut-être une réponse là-dessus ou faisait ça pour voir un petit peu ce qui se passe.
Slimefoot passe. Oh, faut une se réélever sur Gris.
Sur un main gris, que ça passe aussi, ça te fait un board horizontal, beaucoup de pression, c'est pas mal stylé comme sortie.
Ou alors tu veux.
I don't mean, I'm not talking about Orami, I talk about, let me see, how's it called? I think it starts with V. A name that you don't hear too often, because the card is not super popular. Neither is the deck. We see a reanimate on Grist, bringing back the Planeswalker as well as a Slimefoot cast. Tempo-wise, a very powerful play here.
C'est la sauce côté Ertai là, non? Je crois qu'il a pas le 4ème land.
Thank you very much. Vohar it was, yes. That's the card I'm looking for.
Le mode de Slimefoot de DT, les gens rechignent à le faire et pourtant c'est parce que cette carte permet entre autres de faire ça qu'elle est si forte en fait. Il faut vraiment pas hésiter, je pense. Ah, il est sous une belle pression. Donc
So this commander is used for a Doomsday deck. Some people played it on MTGO in some leagues, I think. Even Manguchi brought it up once, I think. Skura, you also tinkered with the deck, right? I don't know if he's still here. A Profane Tutor.
Oui, c'est Dark Ritual.
Ah, ok. Là, je pense qu'il clairement il est en train de dire qu'il va gagner dans 2 tours. Il a encore sa Demonic Consultation en main, donc à mon avis, ce Profane Tutor, dès qu'il résout le tour, il résout, il gagne.
Il y a un monde où il y en a un, il gagne dans 2 tours aussi.
Les 19 PV pour l'instant, je suis pas sûr qu'ils les mettent aussi vite que ça. Va falloir.
Bah là, on va déjà passer à 15 et surtout, t'es un full tap contrôle là.
Contrôle combo quand même. Faut pas oublier qu'il va quand même te buter en combo et que c'est pas un Ertai traditionnel où là tu serais genre super content. Ou alors que t'aurais peut-être peur d'une damnation.
Mais du coup, c'est dans 2 tours là où. Dark Ritual dans Slimefoot, je suis en train de capter.
Ouais, Dark Ritual, je pense que c'est vraiment une carte super sous-estimée en Duel Commander.
Ah non, mais alors je pense pas qu'elle soit sous-estimée.
Ah, je pense qu'elle est
Par
pas
contre, je pense
jouée.
qu'elle est pas évidente dans un deck type Slimefoot. Genre, t'es en mode, t'es 3 mana noir, ma commande zone coûte 1 noir.
Ouais, mais t'as tellement d'autres cartes qui coûtent du mana générique ou noir dans le deck.
2 mana for a DT and a Profane Tutor.
C'est super intéressant comme call.
It could be that Alexandre is planning some shenanigans. Grist is not really doing something right now, except producing some insects. Flare of Malice. Yeah, it could take care of a Jace, but I'm not sure if Alexandre is going for that. Would cost 4 mana next turn to cast Jace. And there are other combos to go for too. A Worldly Tutor might be a bit too late. It's always a question when playing against Slimefoot, like how does the toolbox look like? Against a combo deck, you would probably like to have a position agent, but against anything else, this card is mostly not good enough. Also because many times you telegraph your opposition agent cast. It's a card you want to develop in the early turns, and your standard play is Dork into Slimefoot turn 2, so you cannot keep up the opposition agent. You can do that, but you definitely telegraph that you have some instant speed interaction, which could be endurance against a graveyard-based deck. But apart from that, it's mostly only opposition agent. If not, you misplayed because you didn't manage to bring down your commander on turn 2. Okay. So there is a Mutavolt again. And now we see a DT. DT is much better than a Tainted Pact. You don't have to exile cards. And it's hidden from your opponent. Actually, there's an interesting hand. There is Jace, as well as a Parallax Nexus. With Ertai, all 3 Parallax enchantments got relevant in Duel Commander. Back then it was pretty much only Parallax Wave. These days being featured in almost any white deck. Maybe there are a few exceptions, something like Light Pause, but I think even Light Pause might feature Parallax Wave. I could also see an argument why they do not. Running a low mana base, or maybe at turn 4 you want to win the game already. Then there are some decks that, some blue decks mainly. Back then it was Venza playing the Parallax Tide. This was a similar interaction as with Ertai. Instead of stifling the ability, you would activate it and remove all the, or target all the lands, and holding prior, casting your Venza, bouncing the Tide, so the leaves the battlefield trigger appears first, and then the exiling abilities resolve afterwards, which results in exiling 5 lands of your opponent and having a Parallax Tide again. And here we go. We have the Demonic Consultation in addition to Jace. We knew about that interaction. He was thinking about taking the Flare of Malice, which could have done the job here, but instead this steals the game and we go over to game 3. I think you mean Flare of Malice. Or Flare or Endurance. Sorry. Yeah. Endurance would also be funny. This would result in your opponent just drawing garbage for the next couple of rounds. At the same time, you have to make sure to bring down Jace. Otherwise, they would still win with the trigger. Yes, or Endurance. My fault. A small letter makes a big difference. We have an underground river. There is a very old Wild Grove version. I like to see that. This seems to be an unlimited print. Is this possible? Let's see. Could be unlimited. So guys, back then, when tapped, target land provides 1 green mana in addition to the mana it normally provides. Alright, gentlemen. You have this little bee mutant trying to... I have no idea who drew this freaking insect, man. It doesn't look like a bee at all. Maybe it's not supposed to be a bee. Who knows? But it definitely looks crazy. We have a wash away for Slimefoot, a great counter for 1 mana. There is a Sinister Concierge. That seems to be one of the new fan favorite cards for blue decks. A good one for sure. Quite underestimated, I think. But yeah, rising in popularity. I think the artist of this card drew quite a couple of cards for Magic. Some of them being quite impactful to different formats. Actually, that's not quite true. There's only one card for CDH, just that I see. And also there is Mary, which is a staple for Yoshi Boros decks. We see a FBB Underground Sea. Woo! Black border dual lands. That's the way to go. Hard to get your hands on those copies these days, as they're quite expensive. But you also look at the coloring of these lands, man. It's crazy. A recast with the bird and the wild growths of Slimefoot. In the meanwhile, a short price check on a better Underground Sea. Oh, dirt cheap. For only 8,500 euros, you can grab an excellent copy on Card Market. Yes, almost 13 hours. I had a couple of pauses in between. Right now, I feel like in a Zen mode. I had 6 espressi today. I feel like I could cast 2 more games, maybe. So I still have energy. This is the last round this day. But yeah, games are getting more and more exciting. Also, what we see on the table. We had Azusa against Lightpaws. That was quite a cool one. Now we have Ertai back in game. Haven't seen that one for a while. Societal chain. I have no idea whether or I would imagine they published the top 32 at least, because a tournament of that size should publish more deck lists than just the top 8. Thank you. I'm here for you guys. So you have an English stream, and also I was very excited to cast that event. Looking forward to all those games. The biggest event for our format. Alexandre played Leovold in the past. I think he's tinkering with control decks. There was some event at which he also played Marchesa, if I remember correctly. So the newest Marchesa. Dealer of Death. This one here. Whoop, what is happening? There we go. On the other side of the table, there's the Simian Spirit Guide. Oh. He's casting a spirit guide. Guys. Emergency, emergency. If your opponent casts a spirit guide, a 3 mana, 2/2 vanilla, that's a sign of desperation. Yes, there was one matchup with Theo Meri playing Felia against. Let me check. Can't remember anymore. Against Zatya. That was the matchup. Yeah, I think he's just. I don't know what he plays. I mean, we can have a look at MTG Top 8. I don't know what he plays in other formats, but maybe he favors control decks. So for Duel Commander, he was playing Duel Commander a lot recently. I was only searching Duel Commander. Well, that makes sense. Maybe I should search all formats. In Modern, he played the Wretch, Junt. He also played Slimefoot, by the way. And then Standard, he played, yeah, Sultai, Madu. Different things, it seems. There's a Thought Lash on the battlefield. A card we've... I actually... I was wondering that he would not... Glarb? I thought he was pretty much... or that much into Sultai decks. But Ertai does the job too, it seems. I think that's an exception here. I think so. What we saw earlier was that he's also playing Lab Maniac, and Jace, in addition to Demonic Consultation. So he's going pretty much all in on all the Lab Maniac / Jace combos. But there was a French pro player playing Glarb as a mid-rangey variant on MTGO lately and a couple of leagues. And he used to play Thought Lash combo with Jace because those are two cards you can cast from the top of your library if Glarb is on the battlefield. And that gives the deck an angle to win games more quickly than usual. Maybe that's why. If you wonder, the very first time this card came up was really when Martin from our community was tinkering with Genesis Storm in Thrasios and Tymna. And after some scryfalling, we found this combo, Jace and Thought Lash. So you had to have two permanents entering the battlefield. and then you could combo off and win on spot. Later on, that was used for Uro. Also playing Genesis Storm. Uro was actually the best commander ever printed for Genesis Storm. And now the combo is still available in the format, of course, and used every now and then. Last time I played Thought Lash was when, also including Jace, by the way, was when Reality Chip was a thing. Recently, I updated that deck list. Sadly, there wasn't. I think I only changed like 3 or 4 cards. I think Thoughtless is always interesting whenever you can have a look at the top card of your library. Because, yeah, that was the reason why it was played in Reality Chip. Because if you cannot play the top card of your library, you can just exile it with Thoughtless. And that's the same with Glarb, which makes Glarb's ability much better. So I think, yeah, he might also look into, might have also looked into Glarb, but Ertai does the flashy control play much better. And if it's just about featuring the combo, then Ertai might be the better deck in comparison to Glarb. I don't think that Thoughtless is useless. Again, in combination with your commander, it's not useless. So here in Ertai, I agree. In Glarb, definitely not. Because in Glarb, it can keep you up, that's not what I wanted to say. You can keep casting spells or playing lands, depending on how your board looks like. Just finding, either searching for the cards that you want to find, or just making sure that you always have a play available. It wins you the game, or almost wins you the game against 50% of the meta. There are so many decks that cannot win the game. Like even Tymna and Thrasios, including the combos, it wins by combat damage. Finale of Devastation, okay, if you activate Finale for infinite mana, you cannot exile infinite cards from your library, okay. Maybe that's a bad example, but apart from that, there's so many decks winning with combat damage only, or damage overall, and I think Thoughtless is a very good joker against those decks. Yeah, I have not yet seen a Zulta, a Glarb variant running that many mana dogs, except for maybe Delighted Halfling and Deathrite Shaman. Deathrite Shaman is, to me, not really a mana dog. It's more like the smallest planeswalker ever printed. Alexandre seems to be in a difficult spot. Would be great to get the initiative and then keep it under the Thought Lash. I mean, Thought Lash is definitely not the craziest card, but it's not as bad as it looks. But we had some players complaining about Glacial Chasm earlier. That goes in a similar direction. That's true. I don't know how the suit against enchantments and artifacts, looks like. There is a Cling to Dust, okay. A recurring nightmare on the battlefield, by the way, just to bring up the card for all these people who forgot about the real nightmare, not the Chitonian one, but the recurring, with an awesome artwork from Jeff Laubenstein. I will say Laubenstein. I'm German. I can call it Stein.
Oui, le timer, il y a peut-être quelques minutes qui vont changer.
Démonique consultation en main. Bah en fait, démonique consultation, ça change pas grand chose à la situation puisqu'il a déjà l'exil de deck.
Guess what? It's not a monkey, it's an ape. The ape I was laughing about is now a big one. Gorilla got a small buff. 2+2, 2+1/+1 counters. There's a demonic consultation. Oh. This is going to be some nasty magic. Four HP. He's probably dead next turn, right? Because I think there is the trap from the Undercity waiting for him. And he can't deny that by activating Thought Lash. So, and they're also in extra turns. So what you could do is activate the consultation. Yeah, risk it for the biscuit. Right. Activate the consultation and then search for the Jace. To steal the game? How does that sound? I think it sounds good. Look at this demonic rabbit. Abandon hope, the flavor text says. Oh, actually, the better... Okay, No. See, we're not playing Glarb, so we cannot look at the top card of our library. If there would be Glarb on field, now you would win the game, because you always look at the top card prior to drawing, and then you exile it, and exile it, and exile it, until you find a Jace. You cast a Jace, and you win the game. There is a demonic consultation. Now, calling Jace interesting. Calling the Jace, and that's the win, right? There are two. Two mana available for Slimefoot. There's Jace. Here we go. Who are you to blame powerful Thought Lash combos? So now it's easy. We have our static ability on Jace. we +2. Holding prior, exiling the library. And if we are lucky and our opponent has no way to interact with Jace, which is quite hard with only 2 mana, no Flare of Malice, and that's the win. That's some nasty stuff happening here. I think this is one of the coolest games today. Let's be honest. It's the last one for today. This was round 10. That's a very nice closing, I think. That was actually, I enjoyed it a lot. I have to be honest.